Thank you so much for joining us on this day, of course, that many people have been waiting for. R. Kelly has faced allegations of sexually abusing minors since 1996. That's nearly 2.5 decades. Were you surprised this case made it to trial? And what do you think about this verdict that we're hearing now about this racketeering charge?
No, we weren't surprised that the case made it to trial, and we are pleased with the outcome of at least the initial charge. We look forward to hearing the rest of the charges, but this is the process of bringing Mr. Kelly to justice. And so I've already been on the phone with many of my clients. Of course, they were in such nerves and such trepidation for this day, but I can hear them as we're speaking, talking about the relief that he's been found guilty of the racketeering charge. We're hopeful that the other charges, and we are anxious for the other cases against Mr. Kelly. This was a process of victims bringing forward evidence, the prosecution believing that evidence, and now the jury believing that evidence. So it took 20 years. It took numerous families, numerous victims, but their voice has been heard.
All right, so now that he's been found guilty, what do you think is the appropriate sentencing? How much time do you think he needs to serve?
He needs to serve the maximum amount of time. He's damaged so many lives. He's ruined so many families. If you only knew about the level of pressure that was on these families, on these victims from the very beginning, many people not wanting to believe them, many people victim shaming them. But now in a court of law, after hearing evidence, Mr. Kelly has been brought to justice. So they're seeking maximum time. I will continue to comfort them and aid them, and we will think about our next steps legally. But we are satisfied with the results of this and the job that the prosecution did.
So it doesn't matter that it's racketeering, because let's face it, all the experts have said this is a roundabout way. What he actually, people believe he actually did, is different from the true definition of racketeering. What are your thoughts on him being convicted of racketeering as opposed to the charges that he's been brought up all these years, which is, of course, accused of abusing these young women?
Well, it was a process of abusing the women through the use of his celebrity and the use of his enablers and the use of the people around him. So we think racketeering was the appropriate charge. And you have to remember, this is the first of 4 cases. So the other underlying charges, the more serious charges, will be addressed in the Northern District of Illinois. But he used his celebrity to entrap young women for the purpose of underage sex. And so we believe that it was the appropriate charge. And we listened to the experts, but the experts didn't know the evidence. We've known this evidence for 20 years. We've listened to witness after witness after witness. We've spoken to family after family. So with all due respect to the experts, the evidence spoke for itself, and now the jury is speaking.
And I do want to ask you why you think it took so long to get to this point. I mean, years and years have gone by. A lot of this information has been out there. It's been in the public. People have known about it. Why did it take this long? Why now, finally, there is a guilty verdict for R. Kelly?
It took brave family members, brave victims forward. It took the media to appropriately report this. It took lawyers to come to the forefront. But more importantly, it took the pressure of the public to see what was happening in broad daylight and to hold R. Kelly accountable for his crimes. So I'm ashamed that it took this long. But for many of those years, many of the lawyers that have worked in this case were not lawyers. And so we are now lawyers. We are fully grown. We brought that evidence to a court of law, to the prosecutors. And now we've seen a verdict that speaks the truth. We've seen a shift in the community's awareness about these issues and the ability to hold people accountable. So I think this is just the beginning. And I am hopeful that my clients are in the process of healing through this step of accountability for Mr. Kelly.
Will this help your clients heal?
I think so. Anytime that you are able to get justice, it's a process. And I think this is a process of justice. I think that they've been seeking this day for such a very long time. There's a lot of emotion involved, but ultimately their voices have been heard. So I believe that they're on the process of healing, and this first step in justice is very important.
And let's talk about their voices, because many people said, you know, these are young black women and their voices are not heard. And they are not people who would be able to speak out and be believed by the masses. Do you see this as changing, that now these young black women are going to change the way that trials move forward?
I think they've changed the attitude of prosecutors on what they can present and what they can get convictions on. And we're not so much interested in changing the greater society. We want to change the viewpoint of the individuals that are charged with upholding justice. That's the prosecutors, that's the judge, that's the jury. And so I think this conviction starts that process. We believe the victims from the very beginning. We had to start a process through which law enforcement believed them and law enforcement started to move.
So how much of him being a celebrity, being the big star that he is, R. Kelly, the famous R&B singer, how much of that impacted what happened in terms of, as you said, getting people to believe, the police to believe, the investigators? How much of that celebrity issue was a factor in everything that's happened here?
I think it was a big factor. I think that many people believed that he was untouchable, believed that he was Teflon. But at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. And when you bring the facts forward under a microscope and under the crucible of trial, that comes forward. This was not a trial in Cook County in state court. This is a trial in federal court. And they had thoroughly investigated this case. They had spoken to so many victims, so many witnesses, many of which testified, but some did not testify. There were 46 witnesses. So you have to understand that there was a pattern and practice happening here, and they proved it to a jury. So I think that his celebrity played a role in preventing that initially, but I think once the evidence started to roll, people started to understand he had to be held accountable.
The first and foremost thing is these victims. Obviously, that's what counts here, is these victims are getting justice. But I have to ask the question, there are still people who are R. Kelly fans. His music is still played. What should people be doing now that he is convicted and guilty? Do you expect radio stations to stop playing his music, for people to stop downloading his music? I mean, what's the bigger picture here in terms of R. Kelly, who was an icon musically, who has been accused for years of different issues, but now finally a guilty verdict? What's the bigger picture in terms of what people are responsible for in terms of whether or not to continue to promote his music?
Well, I mean, that's a personal decision for his fans, for the music industry. They have to deal with what they've enabled for so many generations. But I think with regard to the victims, I think people need to think about the individuals that they wanted to push to the side and say they weren't important. Those individuals' lives were important. And that's the message that this jury is sending. And so I think as a community, we have to embrace them. We have to make sure that their voice continues to be heard. And if that means that people have to make personal decisions, they have to make those personal decisions. I've made my decision. I'm not playing the music. The music spoke for itself. He told you in plain view what was happening. And so I think that people have to take a long, hard look in the mirror about what they want to accept and what they're not going to accept. But I think as far as the allegations that have now been proven against Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly in a court of law, beyond a reasonable doubt, people need to take a very strong, hard look on how they're responding.
And what about the bigger picture as well in terms of black celebrities? Let's face it, you know, the O.J. Simpson trial was huge. People said he got away with that because he had celebrity and money. You can't say that now with R. Kelly. And then, of course, there was the Bill Cosby trial where people said he was unfairly attacked and other people said he should have been put away for a long time. Where does R. Kelly fit in the whole discussion of black celebrity and crime?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question as far as celebrity and crime. What I can answer is the question that this jury just answered. And with regard to Robert Sylvester Kelly, he's now been convicted. Bill Cosby's case, O.J. Simpson's case have nothing to do with what happened to Robert Sylvester Kelly. This is about listening to the voices of the victims and to center them. And so With regard to celebrity and fame and crime, this was about crimes that were perpetrated primarily against African Americans by an African American. This individual was held because of his crimes, separate and apart from his celebrity and anything else. So I think that that's what needs to be reinforced, and the voices of the victims should be centered.
Let's talk about the racketeering charge. Explain to us exactly what that is.
He's charged with running a criminal enterprise whose sole purpose was to elicit underage sex from young women. And so they allege and prove that he used his celebrity, his ability to tour, his ability to make music to lure individuals for the purpose of underage sex and fly them across state lines. They proved this by bringing in former members of his entourage, individuals that worked for him, and other people that testified to the process upon which he groomed and flew and procured these individuals. So the purpose of the racketeering was to attack the criminal organization. I know a lot of people have had discussion saying you can't be a criminal organization with only one person charged. Many of the others were unindicted co-conspirators. They may very well be held accountable. There are other trials that will take place. So the purpose of the racketeering charge was to show the pattern of behavior for a long period of time and to hold him accountable for that pattern of behavior.
And I did want to ask you about the other people involved, because you heard so much of other people who were helping him or being told to do things for him. What happens to those people? Do the victims want to go after those people as well, or is it only about R. Kelly?
Well, at this point, all legal options are on the table. Our focus primarily was to get a conviction in this case, to reunite a family with their daughter who still has not been reunited, and then to pursue any other legal options available. So all options are on the table. But at this point, we are focused on holding Mr. Kelly accountable, which was done earlier today. And then we will regroup and think about the next part of our legal strategy.
Peace community, peace community. You already know the vibe. If you are new to the community, welcome. If you're a part of the community, welcome back. It's a lot that's been going on. Joycelyn Savage's lawyer, the family lawyer, speaks out and he talks about how he feels about the guilty verdict and how he feels and about it taking so long, and why did the case take so long for people to actually get justice? You know what I mean? Which is a question that a lot of people are asking, not just the host of the show that asked him the question. A lot of people are asking that same question. But like he says, though, it took a lot of things. It took a lot of variables. It took lawyers. It took the family. You know what I'm saying? But what it took a lot was the public. So we got to give it up to the public, man. We got to stop and give it up to the public. Okay? Got to stop and give it up to the public, because the public are the people who actually got this thing done. In the wake of the docuseries, I think that is what brought the attention on the situation in a whole nother way. It brought a different kind of attention to the whole situation. This was a real serious thing. And, when I think about it is, why did it take so long, right? Aaliyah, he was guilty of Aaliyah. If anything else, he was guilty of Aaliyah. We all know that. All right? And Aaliyah never got justice. You know what I mean? And Aaliyah was so strong, she moved on with her life and was trying to move on with her life. You know what I mean? We can only just give her the praise for this. But I know that she was traumatized too. She's the first victim. Not only did he groom her, not only did he groom her mom, He was writing weird songs, man, like Age Ain't Nothing But a Number and stuff. He was dressing up the same clothes as her, going on interviews. And when the host asked her, she said, we just friends like that. And we just cool. So when we think about a Psyche, when we think about a Joycelyn Savage, when we think about any of these women, some people don't believe them or didn't believe them. Imagine the people that didn't believe Joycelyn Savages, or the people that was in the house over there, and so many people was coming out and speaking out against this. Many people was like, nah, I give it up to the women that spoke out. That's not for you if you were speaking against the women. That's for the women and all of the victims that spoke out, because sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, is to speak out, especially when you're speaking to people with money and power and notoriety and all those things. It's very scary, because that's the same thing that they use and weaponize against them. And then he's making these videos and using those things as a weapon. You see the charges that he was racketeering, all right? They proved, okay, that he was using these kids and using his celebrity, using all of these things to gain these children, to use them for sexual purposes, going all around the world. The Me Too era, a lot of things has happened in the last few years that has sparked a lot of outrage all around when it comes to abuse. Maybe that's a part of it too. A lot of victims are just in a place right now and they're saying, nah, not no more. Not no more. And some people say, you know what? Before it's me, never again and never. So we got to give those praises to those people that actually, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's really, really hard, man, to really, really speak out against certain abuses. So I do give them the credit in this situation. I do applaud the people, the people in getting justice for these people. When we think of something, it's that you just want to say he's a black man and we just railroading a black man, or we just, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that about our people too. You know what I'm saying? But when we talk about a history, okay, a history of something sick. Come on, man. Your name is the Pied Piper. Do you know what the Pied Piper is? It's taking the kids and they never seen the kids and was based on a real story or something, the Hamlins or something, where the kids disappeared. One was deaf, one was blind, couldn't see. One was deaf, couldn't hear the music, and the other one was lame, so he didn't know. Why would you take that as a moniker? And he came back after he beat charges, he came back with that Pied Piper moniker. Look at the sickness. Look at the narcissism. Look at him showing his power in our faces. We only see people like the celebrity or the figure that we see people. But you got to look at what people are showing us. You got to listen to the music. You got to really, really watch the person, really watch the videos, really watch how they acted throughout anything you've seen them in, anything public, and just really cross-examine and cross-reference everything you can see to get a whole picture. Because it's a real sick picture. It's crazy, man. It's really, really sick, man. Once again, my heart goes out to all the victims. If you don't know, and you came from under a rock just now, R. Kelly has been charged on all counts: racketeering, sex trafficking, everything, all of the charges. Plus, he has other cases going on in Chicago and in Minnesota. So those will be, I don't know if those are going to be activated now or when, but he also has pending cases as well. So this time right here is not all of it. This is what's crazy. So like you say, he was basically charged with what Dr. York was charged with. And Dr. York got 135 years. So could you imagine R. Kelly getting 100 years in jail? It's looking like that. That's not me coming and poking fun of somebody getting 135 years in jail. You know what I'm saying? If a person did something to do that, then they deserve that, I guess. you know, but it's just the point. Like, you know what I mean? He was a figure like that. And now he's doing 100 and something years. Do you still listen to his music? Because people still listen to his music. I still hear his music when I'm around the city. You still hear his music. So do people still play his music? We'll find out in May. We'll find out in May. You know, that's when the sentencing is. May 2022. So until then, you know, it's gonna be crazy, man. Ooh, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's most definitely a lot. Salute to all of y'all. I appreciate all of y'all all the time. You already know the vibe. I appreciate y'all love all the time. You already know this is community. If you're a part of the community, always welcome here. If you're new to the community, always welcome here. You know how we do it here, man. We show love to each other. Here, we don't debate, we dialogue, and we do solution-based dialogue. And even if we're not going to debate, because there's not too much debates. And if you want to debate, you could go and sign that up. You can go and sign that and debate, because that's where the debates happen. So I'm saying, we don't need to debate. Some things and situations are not a debate. Our people are dying. Our people are being molested. All type of things are happening to us. Okay, jabs is being pushed on us. All types of shit. All right. We have a lot of commonalities, and we need to see the common goal and the commonalities that we have. Point blank. Period. All right. We want our children safe. We want to be safe. We want to live free. Right. And we need to help other people besides ourselves. So take your head out the history books and start going out there and creating history and making history yourself. If you read any story and you looked up to any great people in history, understand that they just left you a blueprint for you to go about making some history of your own. They ain't gonna say get caught up on them. That's our problem. We get caught up on the messengers and we miss the message. We get caught up on the Jesus when Jesus was telling us, "Hey, be a Jesus like this." So that means we all could be Jesus right now and helping each other and being a light to this world right now. So we sitting around waiting for something that we already have within us, and we already got the examples that came before us. So we don't need nothing else to see. We have all the examples. Let's put it all together. Let's use our voices. Let's understand that it is only one love. It's only one kind of love. It's only one love. It's not two loves, three loves. I think I love them. I think I kind of, no, it's one love. And we all have commonalities. So we have one voice, and we have to unify our voice on those commonalities. We might not physically unify, but our voices can unify on topics, on situations, just like this. All right. And then when we understand that, we will come together, and we will understand that it is what? One community. Appreciate y'all love. I appreciate everybody supporting, everybody donating to the community. You already know we got a lot of great things that we're going to be doing here, giveaways and many things that we're going to be doing here. For the first 700 videos that I've done, I never received cash apps, nothing. I've created overlay screens and everything for everybody. I've done everything I've done for free. Yeah, we're moving into the second phase of the community, and we're moving up now. And most definitely, I appreciate all y'all love. Because that's what it's about. We have to support each other, because that's how we gonna get far. So I appreciate y'all. Just know that if you want to come up any day, you can talk. If this topic, any topic suggested to me, communityliving@gmail.com. You can come talk to me anytime. You can come if you want to have a teaching session. You want to come and talk. You want to build, whatever you want to do. Do you want to talk with a certain kind of person from a certain place or something? Then just let me know. I could probably put that together for you, and y'all can have that dialogue, and we can start opening up some doors, man. Let's start opening up some doors and stop closing the windows on situations. Let's just open the door and just let it all in and stop, you know what I mean, going to the window with it. So salute to all of y'all. You already know the motto here, the mantra: one love, one voice, one community. Peace.